Hello, this is part 3 in a 3-part series on astrology and the 1,000-petaled lotus. So this will be our last in this series. And as I introduced at the beginning of the first video, there are 3 parts to this presentation. The divisional charts, which we finished discussing in the first 2 parts of the series. And now in the third part, we're going to discuss Part 2, chakras, and Part 3, the relationship of Vedic astrology and vibrational astrology. So let's talk about the chakras, and as we shall see, the 7 chakras and the astrological divisional charts are closely related, very similar ideas. So you are no doubt already familiar with the 7 chakras. Here's an image, and by the way, at the bottom of the image, I give the website that I got it from. And there they are, starting with the root chakra, going up to the 7th chakra, the crown chakra. On the left here, we have the Sanskrit words, and here we have it in English. And according to the most popular systems of chakras, there are 7 of them. And the word chakra means wheel. So they're understood to be these swirling energy centers. And these energy centers have petals. They're a little bit like a flowery kind of shape while they're also swirling. And energy flows into and out of the chakras. And the number of petals I have here on the left, starting at the top, the crown chakra has 1,000. So there's our 1,000-petaled lotus, which is also a kind of mythic image, but it also relates to something real, this energy center. Also, I have here or 960 or 972. Some sources say it's not actually exactly 1,000. So whatever it might be, it's around 1,000 petals, according to these theories of chakras. And then you see the other chakras have far fewer. So this has some similarity to the idea of divisional charts, where we have this idea that the most complex, the one with the most sections, that knotty section, if you remember we discussed it, has only a 6-minute arc, and there are 3,600 of them as a fundamental, powerful unit. So again, we have this idea of the crown chakra, which connects us most closely to the energetic and spiritual dimensions, having many, many petals. And then, quite curiously, it drops all the way down to 2 petals for the brow chakra, also known as the ajna, or third eye chakra. Although some sources say there are 96 petals. So we have the ajna, and then the throat, 16, heart, 12, solar plexus, 10, sacral, 6, and the root, 4. Another similarity with the divisional charts is the emphasis on the numbers 5, 6, and 12. We see the number 5 show up with the solar plexus, 10 petals, which is 5 times 2. Also the crown chakra, 1,000. 1,000 equals 125 times 8, and 125 equals 5 times 5 times 5, or as we would say, 5 cubed. That's a lot of 5s. And then 8, which is in astrology, 1, 2, 4, 8 are action vibrations. So this 5, huge 5 cubed in an action coming down, 5 is a vibration of organic life. And so we have the 1,000-petaled crown also has 5. And then we also see the number 6. So for example, 12 equals 6 times 2, and then the 6. And we also have an emphasis on 2, 4, and 16. So doubling, 2 times 2 is 4. We don't have the 8, but we do have the 16 in the throat. So we have that emphasis. We do not have the 9 emphasis that we see in the divisional charts, but there are many, many more divisional charts we counted up a total of 26 of them, in those first two videos. And here we have only 7. So we're not going to have quite as many numbers and variations, not nearly as much. But you see kind of a similarity. The numbers are not identical, however. So we see very similar idea, but not identical, not like a one-to-one correspondence. So what we're seeing in Vedic astrology and in Ayurveda, the health system, and this entire system of thinking is an emphasis on energetic flow and complexity of levels with similar numbers. Now, the system of seven chakras is by far the most popular and probably one that you're very familiar with, but there are other systems of chakras. So this is also similar to what goes on with divisional charts, where we hear over and over again about the 16 divisional charts, at least if you're a Vedic astrologer, but there are also others that didn't get passed on or didn't become as fundamental. So, for example, a fellow named Dr. Amit Ray, who spent time meditating in the Himalayas. He's also a research scientist. So he spent time in the Himalayas and learning the ancient Vedic teachings. He states, he's not the only source, but there's just one example. He states that there are 7 major chakras, so he agrees with that, and there are 21 minor chakras, and then 86 micro chakras, for a total of 114 chakras. So you get this idea of a complex system of swirling energy patterns, 7 main ones, 21, I guess, minor, smaller ones, and then micro chakras. So again, this gets very similar to the idea of divisional charts, where there are many of them operating at different levels. So what is happening is that this world view and this understanding, and supposedly people actually see these chakras, they experience them. These perceptions, these ideas, very consistent view of life as energetic swirling energies from a more invisible world that motivates and manifests in our physical world. So Dr. Amit Ray agrees with the number of petals of each chakra given on the previous slide. He points out that the lower 6 chakras have a total of 50 petals. That's interesting. There again, we see the 5 emphasis. Actually, what is that? That's 5 times 5 times 2. And interestingly, the crown chakra has 5 times 5 times 5, another 5, and then more 2s, 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So we see that the total of the lower 6 chakras in terms of petals is like a lower level, not as complicated, not as large numbers of the same 5 and 2. They're 1,000 petals made up of 5s and 2s. That would be 3 5s and 4 2s. If you multiply it out, 5 times 5 times 5 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, you'll get 1,000. And 50 equals 5 times 5 times 2. So interesting similarities there. Now, some sources state that the crown chakra consists of 50 layers or rings. I've seen them described as either layers or rings of 20 petals each. So there, again, you're seeing the number 50, which is the number of petals in the lower 6 chakras, repeated, and there's like 20 rings of them. So what I'm pointing out here is not so much that these specific details are the most important, although they're interesting, and perhaps you and other people will get some more insights, but just the emphasis on a consistent theme, that these numbers are not just picked randomly out of all the numbers. They are built from the fundamental important numbers of 5, 3, 6, and 9. Those fundamental, and also 2, 4, 8, 16. Those numbers are the basis of a lot of the divisional charts, and they are the base, as we saw in the first two videos. And here we're seeing that they are the basis of the chakras. And of course, we have the word chakra in both. Chakra for these swirling energies, and we have the divisional charts, which are known as vargas, and they're called chakras, wheels. Okay, so just showing that there is a consistent model that's behind all of these ideas and a consistent way of looking at things. And in fact, Dr. Ray says that an unobstructed flow of energy between the chakras produces optimum health, and obstructions between them is debilitating. So it's not only that each chakra is completely separate, and if it's working well, like some people say, oh, he's in his fifth chakra, he's in his second chakra, things like this. That's true, but they're all communicating with each other and interacting. And that's vitally important to some of the people who espouse these ideas and work with them. And just for fun, I found a image of I've got a mess here. Let me bring this up here and go over to here. Here's an image that an artist made of the crown chakra. Just an idea of these 20 rings, like we would have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and they would go out and out, out to 20 rings, and I guess maybe if you count all these little things, you have 20. Anyway, 20 rings of 50 petals. Okay, well, anyway, it's just an artistic image, but I thought that was kind of fun to look at, just to confirm what it is we're talking about. Okay, getting back to our PowerPoint. And that's the website for the image I just showed you. Now, our last section, Vedic astrology and vibrational astrology. We've already talked about this somewhat, but let's summarize and introduce a few key points about the similarities between these two systems. Ancient Vedic astrology and modern vibrational astrology, and also to some extent modern Vedic astrology, share something that is generally not part of Western astrology. So it's interesting to see these different systems of astrology, just like you have different systems of music, like jazz and different kinds of classical music, and what do they have in common, what's distinguishing them. And so what's similar in vibrational astrology and Vedic astrology is the understanding that we live in a stunningly beautiful and intricate tapestry. A beautiful, intricate tapestry which inspires awe and wonder. Instead of having an emphasis on 12, 12, 12 and a few partitions of it, we have this multi-layered, jewel-like geometry, sacred geometry, in which energy is flowing through us and through all things, and through which astrology functions as well. So we live in a jewel-like universe of splendor. It may not feel like it, but hidden behind our experiences, this exists. It's a little bit like, I just thought of this now, the very recently, I'm making this in, what's today, July 26, 2022, recently there was the James Webb Space Telescope, took these incredibly beautiful images of galaxies and in detail and the immense size of things, that in the universe there is this awesome splendor. Despite the ugliness that many people face, this hidden world exists and obviously comes through as well, and very often in our lives. So this is the idea of what's going on, that the astrology operates from this higher dimensional, rarefied, intricate, beautiful geometry. And in the previous one of the previous, I think I remember if it was part 1 or part 2, we looked at the artwork. I think it was the end of part 1. We looked at the artwork of Ragini Shankar, the violinist and artist, and how people feel and experience this beautiful world. I can't emphasize that enough, because to really dive into the world of vibrational astrology and some of these systems of Vedic astrology, you have to connect with what we're presenting, with what we are experiencing, and not just memorize the rules. Because memorizing rules can be like an empty shell, but to dive into the experience. Just like you would with music, you don't just play the notes like mechanically. You feel it, you become a part of that experience. So that's the big difference. Western astrology model is like a jewel with 12 faces and a few other adornments such as decanates or terms and so on. The rules of interpretation in Western astrology are complex, so you take these basic fundamentals and build very complex rules, but the geometry on which these rules are based is simplistic compared to these ideas in Vedic astrology and in vibrational astrology. And because I'm a vibrational astrologer and I've done all this research, and other people do research, it's evidence-based system and our experiences, and this is what we're attuned to, and we believe that there is this beautiful, intricate, jewel-like universe in which we live and through which astrology functions. That 12-base system is, in fact, overly simplistic. It's not wrong. It's not, derailed or something. It's just not developed to the level of understanding. It's kind of like playing music with just 3 or 4 notes instead of having more notes and more scales and intricacy, which is the way life is. So the beautiful, intricate, sacred geometry on which astrology is based has also made it possible to develop the fully evidence-based form of astrology that is supported by modern research methods, as described in the book The Astrology of Bipolar Disorder, A Scientific Breakthrough, is the book that I published earlier this year, early in 2022. So that's the exciting part, is that by incorporating these ideas, it's not just an arbitrary personal decision. You start to see things work extremely well, and you can actually show that the astrology works, and we can learn the greater details about how astrology works using this, we could say, theoretical framework and this view of how astrology works. So again, although Vedic astrologers draw the chart wheel in a rectangular form, you're probably familiar with the North Indian and South Indian wheel styles. They're not actually wheels, they're rectangular shapes or square shapes. The chart is often still referred to as a chakra nevertheless. And the word chakra means wheel. The birth chart is a wheel, and our energy centers are wheels. The earth rotates on its axis, and it revolves around the sun. Circularity and elliptical roundness is going on everywhere. Even theoretically, maybe it was before or after we realized that the earth is round. Certainly the orbit of the earth around the sun was not known to many cultures. Maybe it was known and then lost. But in any case, regardless of how you understand the history of knowledge, these ancient ideas, ancient Vedic system of astrology, is consistent with how life actually is, as we know it in modern times. So angular momentum, which is referred to as spin by physicists, is one of the 3 fundamental properties of subatomic particles. So this circularity, angular momentum, these mandalas, these swirling energies, you see the consistent image of how life works through a kind of spin, through angular momentum at the subatomic level, of the earth spinning on its axis, of the earth going around the sun going around the galactic center, the shape of galaxies that look like spirals, the spirals of our energy systems, and the complex, beautifully intricate layers of the divisional charts and the chakras. And the more we look into outer space, the telescopes go out there, the more magnificent, awesome, and enormous we realize reality is. And exactly what's happening in science, where at one time we just knew about the Earth and we saw the stars, and then they discover the Kuiper belt beyond Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and then they discover, and now they say that there are galaxies within each pinpoint of space in the sky, and it becomes more and more awesomely, bewilderingly incredible. And that is exactly what is happening with astrology. And the ancient Vedic astrologers had the intuition and sensitivity to know that. They're like so many hundreds or thousands of years ahead of their time. So I know a lot of astrologers resist these beautiful levels. It seems overwhelming. But if you let it in and just accept that it is, it's the same experiences as the discoveries in modern astronomy and many other fields. It's just awesomely, incredibly amazing. And we have found our way through this complexity to find the rules that actually work. Okay, so, just to share how you might say, vision in some of these systems of ancient Vedic astrology and vibrational astrology is similar, and how we feel it and our perspective on it. Okay, so second paragraph here, ancient Vedic astrology, modern vibrational astrology, and to some extent modern Vedic astrology. The ancient mandalas and the work of modern artists like Ragini Shankar, all of these capture this feeling of the beautiful, intricate mandalas that are a force behind the biological, mental, and emotional processes that we experience. The emphasis on 12 divisions of the sky misses the magnificent, beautiful, cosmic, energetic tapestry in which we live. And also, concepts like the music of the spheres and the idea that there is an intricate, beautiful, sacred geometry that is not constrained to only a 12-base system are as deeply rooted in ancient astrology as are other systems of astrology. So, vibrational astrology, for example, appears to many people to be extremely modern, like it's this new thing. It's unhinged from the traditions. It's appearing as this new kid on the block, born out of modern science, which we can skeptically look at as being very materialistic. It seems like something that is more superficial and intruding on a great ancient wisdom. Many people are perceiving it that way. It's not true. That's actually not what's happening. We see that vibrational astrology is just as deeply rooted in ancient wisdom as any system of astrology. So in some ways, vibrational astrology is very new, but in other ways, the foundations of it, the latest discoveries are new, latest insights are new, but the basis of it, the foundation, is very ancient. And we see this in the Vedic astrology. We see it in the music of the spheres. Even Ptolemy wrote a book about music of the spheres. And we extract from Ptolemy only his tetrabiblos. But the music of the spheres, the intricacy of the universe, all of these ideas are part of our ancient heritage. So I just want to make that clear as a way of understanding what it is we're doing and where it came from, and what it means and how it's relevant to us. So there are, reading the last paragraph here, there are particular attitudes and perspectives involved in the study of anything. No matter what you study, it can be biology, it can be, a physical science like chemistry, it can be an art form like painting or music or anything. No matter what you do, we engage with that activity, say it's painting, with a perception, with an attitude, with even a philosophy. Even if we don't think we have a philosophy, we have some sense of where we're going with this. Are we trying to capture things realistically? Are we expressing some deep sensitivities within ourselves in the moment? What is the goal? What is the concept? How is this used? Do people put this on their walls? There's all kinds of unconscious associations and connections and premises and beliefs behind anything we do. We just often take them for granted. We don't verbalize them. And so I'm just making clear that in these ancient systems of Vedic astrology and in vibrational astrology, it's the appreciation of the beautiful, intricate tapestry in which we live that is fundamental. It's the fundamental perspective. And also it appears not just in the astrology, but in the artworks, as we saw with Ragini Shankar's art, or any hundreds or thousands of other art examples that I could show. They capture this feeling, this perspective, and this attitude. Yes, I thought that was my last slide, and indeed it is. Just looking at our time here, we're at about 26 minutes. Excellent. So that's it, my friends. Some insights into divisional charts, how these ideas came about, how the perspective of seeing what's in the sky and seeing health, people's well-being. Are they ill? Are they healthy? What's going on? And seeing the foundations of health again in these swirling energy systems at different levels. And most likely in the ancient systems of healing, because we've only received little bits and pieces. A lot of it was an oral tradition. It seems very reasonable that there were more than 7 chakras in many of these systems. And we're only getting a little piece of that ancient wisdom that's been handed down and translated to us. And that also, some of these ideas are ancient. Some of them are actually not so ancient, as far as we know. But it is a tradition of thinking. What is ancient is the attitude, the perspective, the way of seeing that gets carried through. And you will see that perspective and that view very clear in a lot of the ancient Vedic literature. In another video, I don't remember the title of it, I quote some passages from the Rig Veda, and the poetry, the perception, the way of understanding, so similar to how we see things today in vibrational astrology. Okay, my friends, thank you very much for listening. God bless. Namaste.